Alright, you saw the title of the video, you know what it is. This is a species I've kept on and off for many years. I've had colonies come and go, just through, like, bad luck or just, you know, other circumstances. Like, the last colony I had turned out to be very male-heavy, and all the females died, and the colony eventually died out, which sucked. But I just recently got a bunch of these from my buddy Brandon, Brandon Maines. Definitely check him out. He's the Roach guy these days. If anybody can get in contact with Kyle Candillian, maybe he would be. But I haven't. He's not very active, at least that I've seen. But yeah, one of my favorite hissing roach species from Madagascar. These are a dwarf variety. In the hobby, I believe there's also there's these, and then there's Chapardi. I think there might have been one more, but not anymore, or whatever. I have Chapardi. Chapardi are just ever so slightly smaller and lighter colored. That's how I would describe them. But care is very similar to any other hissing roach, although I like to keep these a slight bit damper than I would normally keep, you know, your standard Madagascan hissing roaches. I kind of go all out for my roach species, even though you could just keep these on cocoa fiber or something like that. I do a nice rich soil compost, rotting leaves and rotting wood mix for these. I think it benefits all roaches, not just these. Gives them something to eat in the meantime, provides them good gut material, especially if you're like really busy and you're not constantly putting in a supply of fresh food in your roach habitats. You know, the leaves will help get them by, and they really are good for them, I promise. But for their main foods, I feed my hisser roaches almost entirely vegetables. Here's a little nymph. I find that they do perfectly fine on just vegetables. Occasionally, every once in a while, I'll give them a piece of fruit or maybe a piece of dry cat food for protein. I'll also feed them other dead roaches. They'll eat that kind of stuff too. Leftovers from the stuff I feed the isopods. Yeah, they'll eat a bunch of stuff, but I find that vegetables does just alright. And they really like, as you can see, carrots, and this is pumpkin. Or any kind of squash they really dig as well. Yeah, they do well on just veggies, but if you want, I can show you how to sex them. There's a really easy way, and I'll show you the other way, which can apply to pretty much any other roach. So, let's find a female right here. So this is a female. No horns, really, to speak of, right? Let me see if I can get a bigger one. So try to get the biggest guys in here for my examples. Okay. Where are you? Alright. So here we have a female. No horns to speak of, really. Perfectly flat on that one side. And here you have a male. He's got his horns up top there. It's kind of hard to see. The horns on these guys aren't quite as pronounced on other species. I guess it depends on the male, though. Some males have it pretty well pronounced. And then on the abdomen, if you can see there, they have a last segment. Let's see if I can better show it. So this last segment, I guess I'm going to have to restrain you. You guys are stronger and faster than you would think. Believe you me. So that last segment has two segments. It's small. There's one final one starting at that black line here, that first black line. And then there's another one starting at the end. Right? And then if you look at this lovely little female, big female actually, come on, it's just one big large segment right here, see? Yeah, just the one large segment at the end there. And you can kind of hear them hissing a little bit. They're not a fan of me pestering them like this. But yeah, that applies to pretty much all roaches. I know there are probably exceptions, but I am not a big enough roach expert, despite how many species I keep, to know which ones those are. Those are like the fancy schmancy expert level species, I guess. But pretty much all the species that I have kept can be sexed that way. If they don't have any very easily identifiable sexual dimorphism, like wings, or lack of wings, or horns, or just general size, if their size is very similar, you can always tell that way. And you can also tell on nymphs once they get to a certain size through that method. They both work fairly well. But yeah, the size, I'm probably going to move them up. Once they have babies, I'll probably sell half the babies. Like I said, I just got this whole colony, maybe like, probably like 30-something of them in here, maybe, if I'm guessing. And they haven't had nymphs of their own. This is just the nymphs that came with them. But once the adults are having like fresh little baby nymphs, I'll probably sell half of them, and the other half I will take with all the adults, everything, and just move up to a bigger enclosure. You can see the size of this enclosure. What is that? How many quarts? Yeah. And these containers I really like. They're from the Container Store. They're like a chain store that sells like storage stuff. Check and see if you have one near you, because they're really good for this kind of stuff. You can buy some of their stuff in bulk, which is nice. Kind of like a Walmart or Costco for containers. It's pretty nice. Lots of tubs and stuff. But I recommend the gasket seal. And I recommend the gasket seal because they can climb very easily, and the nymphs are very small. So any like little gaps and stuff they could definitely climb out of. And with this and the clips, you form kind of like an almost airtight seal that even the little nymphs can't get through. So that's a really nice thing to have, in my opinion. I know some people that you can use like roach grease or something like that, or some kind of like weird tape barrier or gel or whatever. I don't bother with that. I just like the simplicity of these. You just gotta check on the lid when you open it to make sure there's none on the top that are gonna fly out. But they don't usually freak out. But yeah, the only advice I would say with these is don't keep them too moist. Also, don't keep them too dry. Moist because you'll get like lots of mites, which mites aren't inherently bad, but once they get to a certain level, it gets a little out of hand. Don't overfeed, or else you'll get mold in there and hence exacerbate any kind of mites or flies or anything. You don't want that stuff. Allow it to dry out a little bit in between like your mistings or waterings or however you like to do. But otherwise, yeah, these guys actually have really impressively sized broods. I've counted like 50 in a single brood from some of my larger females in the past. Hopefully these guys will do just as well. Temperature-wise, they like it in the 80s, I find. Some people keep them in the low 90s, but I think it's not really necessary. I'm also thinking about trying to put in a cleanup crew with them. I keep pruinosis with my wide-horn hissers, and they do quite well, both the hissers and the pruinosis. I'm thinking about trying one of my smaller dwarf roach species or something like that, but I'm not sure yet. We'll do some experimentation when the time comes. But yeah, this is how I take care of them. I'm not saying it's necessarily the best way or the most efficient way, but this really works for me, especially since I'm babying this colony. I want this colony to grow quickly, as fast as I can. Get me back to normal, because I've had these and people have been asking for them and I haven't been able to get them. My locals, that is. But yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see next. I might do some other roach species that I got from Brandon. Some micro roaches or gyna. Might do some arachnid stuff or maybe centipedes. Let me know what you want to see and I'll do it. Have a good night, guys.